Welcome back. So we have reached the end of Module 1, and congratulations are in order. But before we wrap up, I'd like to share just a few miscellaneous tips and pointers that can make your life as a SQL coder a little bit easier. First up is a little trick I haven't revealed up till now because it should really only be used in testing and prototyping rather than live production code, but it's so darn easy that it can be tempting to use all the time. And that trick is select star. Okay, so they call it select star, but it's really select asterisk. I guess they thought select star sounded like more fun. So up to this point, we have relied upon two methods for writing columns in our SQL queries. We either use the select top 1000 magic trick to have SQL Server Management Studio write out the column names for us, or we copy them out of the Object Explorer. So for example, I could either right-click person.address and select top 1000 star and allow the SQL Server Management Studio editor to write the code for me. Or alternately, I could click New Query and type select, and then one at a time I could either type the column names or copy the column names directly out of Object Explorer. But that doesn't sound like a lot of fun. So what's an easier way to select all the columns from a table? But if we want to see all the columns in the table, we can use this select star trick. So let's take a look. So back here, where we did the select top 1000 from person.address, instead of having all these columns listed out, I can wipe away all this code and just type asterisk. Same result. So this is just shorthand, a shortcut for selecting all columns from a table. You can imagine how this could save time in typing, and we all love to save time on typing, right? But I only recommend it when you're in the testing or exploratory phase of your coding. Once you have a clear idea of which columns you're interested in, limit your queries to just those columns. It puts less strain on your database, since it doesn't have to fetch and display all that unnecessary data, and also doesn't overwhelm your business customers with a bunch of columns they may not understand or care about. For example, if you look at this table, there's a column called Address ID. Now, we'll get into the importance of ID fields in database tables later, but the bottom line is, while this may be useful to us when we're trying to deal with the data from a technical perspective, a business customer probably wouldn't have much use for an address ID column, and in fact, it might even be confusing. So this is an example where if you're actually going to be extracting data from a table to present to a non-technical person, you probably want to be more explicit about the columns you're selecting. But if you're just playing around with a table to just generally see what's in there, then select star can be a really fast, convenient way to do that. So that's it for select star. The second tip pertains to our other, more old-school magic trick for pulling all columns from a table, which is to say the select top 1000 option in Object Explorer. If we execute this on a table, let's just say, for example, on the person.person table, you'll see that the table name after from is actually prefaced by two things: the database name and the schema name. But it turns out you really only need the schema name, this guy right here, person, except in very specialized circumstances, because SQL already knows what database you're in. So let's remove the database name and see if that works. So we'll just get rid of AdventureWorks and the dot and run this again, and it works just the same. So how do I know that SQL knows that we are still using the AdventureWorks database? Easy. It's actually listed right up here in the top left-hand corner of Management Studio. As you can see, it's already selected here, and as long as it is, we don't have to worry about specifying a database, although it certainly does not hurt to do so. You can add AdventureWorks dot here, and it won't hurt a thing. It just isn't necessary as long as AdventureWorks 2019 is set as the database up here in this dropdown. Now, if I were to change the database name in this dropdown, it would change the context in which our query is operating. So if I change the database and then run this query again, you'll see that it breaks. But then if I switch it back again, we're good to go. So the bottom line is, the vast majority of the time, you're okay to leave the database name out of your from, but you don't have to. It's really up to you. Now lastly, I want to show you how you can either run multiple queries or alternatively individual sections of code within a single editor window. The former case comes in handy when you have a report or analysis that has multiple outputs, and the latter can be convenient when you're using the query window as a kind of scratch pad with multiple different queries that you may want to run at different times. So to demonstrate this, let's write a couple of quick queries in an editor window. And out of sheer laziness, but also to demonstrate the effectiveness of our little select star tactic, let's wipe out all of those columns and just write select star from person.person. And I believe we selected from the person.address table earlier. So we'll drop that query below select star from person.person. And we'll replace address 1 with star or asterisk. Now, if you want to run these both, it's really tough. You have to... Oh, wait. All you have to do is just hit the execute button like always. So let's see what happens when we do that. All right, you'll see that instead of having just one scroll bar over here that lets us scroll through the output of our single query, we actually have a second scroll bar over here that lets us scroll to see two windows, one output window for each of our queries. And you can even do this with even more queries, although I would not use too many or else you'll confuse yourself pretty fast. You can imagine how this could kind of get out of control if you decide to write select star from 20 different tables in your editor window. But this can be pretty handy if you have, say, a multi-stage analysis that outputs multiple data sets and you want that all in one place. Now, if on the other hand, I wanted to have these queries in the same file or editor window, but just wanted to run one at a time, all I have to do is highlight the query I want to run and hit execute. So let's say I have both of these queries in my file, but I just want to select star from person.person and not person.address. If I just highlight that code and hit execute, only that query runs. So if you highlight code in an editor window in SQL Server Management Studio and hit execute, SQL will ignore anything that isn't highlighted. It will only run what is highlighted. Now understand that for this to work, you need to highlight a valid SQL statement. So if you only highlight a section of code that doesn't make sense as an overall query, it will break. So for example, if I just highlight this and don't include the full name of the person table and run, that doesn't work because all SQL is trying to evaluate and execute is just this up to that S. But if we highlight the whole thing again and run it, it works fine. All right, so that's it for this one and for Module 1. I'll see you in the next video.